SpongeBob, SpongeBob, SpongeBob. We all can't get enough of that little yellow square, can we? I mean, unless you've seen only the majority of seasons 5 through 8 where he took a turn for the worse. Regardless of your opinion, you can't deny he made a big impact on my generation and even more to come. My generation can hear a SpongeBob quote out of context and automatically know it's from the show. That's the intellectual power of the audience of this show, and without question, his popularity would spread into other forms of media, including toys, clothes, demonic ice cream, kids books, 2 theatrical films, and a widespread of video games. And today I'm going to be covering the first one I ever played, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I remember loving this game when I first got it, and it was one of the first games I ever played when I first got my PS2. It eventually got overshadowed by Battle for Bikini Bottom, but that's for another day. I remember loving the look of the show being translated into a video game. However, it's hard to say the graphics haven't aged well in 16 years since. But I'm sure it can't be too bad, as the show was deep into its 3rd season when this was released. I beat this game in its entirety back in 2008 and was fine with it, but something tells me I'm going to be thinking a lot differently now that 10 years have passed. So let's check it out. The plot is that when SpongeBob is playing a game of fetch with Gary, Gary digs up a treasure chest containing a bottle containing the Flying Dutchman. SpongeBob accidentally releases him and starts hypnotizing his friends into being part of his ghostly pirate crew, and the only way SpongeBob can defeat the Dutchman and save his friends is to find the Dutchman's 7 lost treasures and face him and defeat him, as that seems to be the only way to make him immune to his powers. Good enough premise for a video game. However, the in-game cutscenes and graphics of this game are, to put it nicely, experimental. The way how every facial feature moves on every character is very jarring, as if the game was designed by traditional 2D animators who only just started learning how to do 3D animation, and it's a rough start. This was the first 3D animated SpongeBob game on a home console, and it certainly shows. With all these bizarrely animated faces the characters make, I don't even know which one to make for the thumbnail. I might as well just make a collage and hang it on my wall. And just like Breaking the Rules, the characters look ripped right from a 2D model with little to no polish. Look at Patrick's mouth line here. He looks like he's going through an emo phase.
Oh, where is he? I'm tired of being alone all the time.
How could this happen to me?
The graphics are one thing, but the controls are another. You play as SpongeBob, obviously, and it controls pretty well on the ground, being pretty fluent, which I have complaints about. You can attack by using a karate chop, which is delayed by a split second, which normally would be a problem, except this game doesn't always require you to do combat, with an exception of 2 mini-levels and some minor exploration needed to complete the level. But you're not stuck with the basic karate chop, as you can unlock 3 different outfits for SpongeBob which you can use to progress in the game. You have the jellyfishing suit, which you can use to grab onto hooks and catch jellyfish to complete other objectives. You have a mermaid man suit, which can shoot water ball projectiles, and the reef blower suit, which you don't really have much of a use for as opposed to collecting small bonuses. And each suit comes with their own music that loops throughout the rest of the game, which can get really annoying to listen to because other than those 4 music tracks, there's only like about 5 other tracks, and those ones you can mostly only listen to in really short bonus stages. So the soundtrack feels very limited, and the more they play, the less they fit the environment. Like hearing jolly music from SpongeBob's normal suit in a dark and gloomy setting like downtown Bikini Bottom. Really doesn't seem to fit. However, the Mermaid Man music is pretty damn snazzy. But again, there's only so much you can listen to for hours on end playing this game, even if it is moderately short. The only levels that actually have their own music are Chum World and the Dutchman's Graveyard, and it makes me think that other levels were supposed to have their own music, but were lost and just replaced by other costume tracks. And no, changing your costume in those 2 levels doesn't change the music, which does kinda suck. But getting to these levels was a breath of fresh air to hear new music. And it wasn't until getting to Goo Lagoon in level 5 where I actually was so fed up with the constant music looping that I actually turned the music off. And honestly, it was really atmospheric. I could have easily just muted the TV, but I wanted to take in all the other sounds from the game, especially when you're climbing up a lighthouse during a storm. I could actually relax my ears and calm my senses while listening to the game. And when you go inside SpongeBob's head to solve a puzzle, as you would, the music sounds like something you'd hear at a bar mitzvah. More like SpongeBob Jew pants, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, please.
This game's greatest fault by far is the camera. There's a lot of platforming and jumping in this game, and obviously instances where you have to jump across ledges, but practically every leap you make, you'll be struggling to maneuver your way across platforms while your camera gets stuck on the wall, making the depth perception just as bad. Like, I'm trying to ride across the swing to make it to the next platform, but I keep falling all the way down, so I have to climb up the whole thing again. This is so tedious. And sometimes it'll surprise you, like how it surprised me with the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Now go to it, lad!
And sometimes the camera doesn't move fast enough so you could easily get hit by an enemy you didn't even see. Plus, I know this game is for little kids, but there are things about it that no normal kid would be able to pick up on so quickly, or are just aggravating for a young age, or just too easy. For example, the objective of each level is to complete tasks that earn you letter tiles, and once you collect all 7 to spell out SpongeBob's name, you are sent to a bonus level to unscramble a puzzle to decipher the location of the Dutchman's treasure, and each one you find leads to the Dutchman taking one of SpongeBob's friends to be a part of his ghostly crew. However, after you beat Sandy's tree dome level, you're left on your own to figure out what to do. You need a bus ticket to go to Jellyfish Fields, but there's nowhere to look unless you look at your menu and learn you need to find a random jellyfish in Bikini Bottom that has the bus ticket floating around with it. Like, there's no other creative way you could have gotten it. That's just lazy. Also, there's a really annoying level in Goo Lagoon where you have to run to the end of the pier only to watch a cutscene of the Dutchman taking control of the ship and destroying the pier as you run back towards the entrance. But this is also sort of done as an eye-level side-scroller, so if you're struggling down a thin and narrow path, you'll most likely die. And you don't just die and restart by going back to where you started running away from the ship. No, you start at the beginning of the whole stage, running to the end of the pier again, and watching the unskippable cutscene play out for as many times as you keep dying. It's really frustrating.
Oh, I got dead again. This game stinks.
But on a lighter note, it's nice to know that the whole cast of the main characters are here, because even if the in-game models are weird looking, the vocal performances are perfect to match the show. Well, I'll accept the narrator. For some reason, Tom Kenny isn't voicing the narrator like he always does, and is instead replaced by someone else sounding like Jacques Cousteau, but he projects it so close to the microphone that it's borderline creepy.
Don't you think your little friend Gary would like to play some fetch? Hold the duck button, then press the jump button to reach high places. Do not be so hasty, for these clams are just a part of the cycle of life.
Oh, Mr. Krabs warned me about playing hooky, but they look so fun. Maybe just one quick ride while no one's looking.
Ah, you little troublemaker. Those hooks can be very dangerous, but I promise not to tell if you use your fishing net to hang from them.
Okay, son. You're starting to creep me out.
And if there's anything that makes the game easier, it's this boss battle. Just watch for yourself.
If you can defeat me, then you can have the ticket. Ah, okay, I give up. Here's your stinking bus ticket.
Congratulations!
This game can't even keep a consistent frame rate. It's desperately trying to find a number to move at, but can never pick one. It's all over the place, and if there's too much movement on the screen, there's an excessive lag that's just so distracting. But not as distracting as these fish clowns, because I swear to God, with all I've seen them do, they're borderline bipolar suicidal maniacs. Like how I beat this clown and won his bus pass. I mean, oh, you can't win them all, buddy, don't sweat it. Did he just ascend to heaven? Well, maybe a carnival game will cheer me up. Oh, don't beat yourself up, buddy. It's just a game. Whoa, wait, you have so much to live for! Oh man, this guy must be tired from chasing that coin all day. Let me help him out. Hey, take a rest, man. I got a cover from here. Oh, Jesus, I killed him! I freed him from his clutches. It was the only way. It was the only way. Good grief, he's naked! Sadly, this game doesn't really try to make the audience laugh as much as the show did, as it just seems to be a lot of exposition and explaining game mechanics and objectives. But when it does try, it's either not funny, bad gross out humor, or just really dumb. For example, the show is used to having a lot of painted stills to emphasize on a joke being told, and they use it here for whenever you find the Dutchman's treasure, but it's pretty vile, even for the show. For some reason, all of the Dutchman's treasures are completely gross. Like, what's with all the gross out humor? I know the show had a few butt jokes sprinkled in, but the humor never really relied on it. But near the end of the game, it sure does.
Be ye here to steal my booty?
Oh, believe me, I have no interest in touching your booty.
Someone grabbed my booty while I was polishing this cannon. His booty is bigger than anyone's, but he still comes out here to get his hands on even more. He just can't get enough booty. That sack was so big, I could barely get my hands around all that booty. Are you kidding me? Everyone wants more booty, no matter what package it comes in. Aren't you the one who's been digging around in my booty?
Oh, do you mean the booty stuffed in the crack of the ship?
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Yeah.
Honestly, this game has me pretty burned out since I played it a lot when I was a kid, and a lot of my feelings then are the same as they are now, but I'll end it off with the platforming. On the ground, running is pretty boring, and usually I'll find myself hopping across each level, which seems to be marginally quicker. And oftentimes, jumping is all you're going to be doing because the movement on the joystick is so sensitive that being in the air is the best way to direct yourself. This comes especially when you're in Sandy's tree dome trying to maneuver your way across the thin branches, but that's just an extra challenge for the player. And you're going to be finding yourself jumping a lot when you're delivering Krabby Patties, because if you don't, you're moving slow as shit. Not to mention the last few deliveries have you on a time limit, so you better be doing nothing but jumping. Speaking of jumping, one of the big challenges in Jellyfish Fields is to ride the white jellyfish without falling off, and there's practically no challenge here, as 70% of the time you'll be standing on top of it doing nothing, and the other 30% is occasionally avoiding obstacles, but the time between each one is so big that it's tedious and boring. It takes no effort to get this letter tile, nothing feels accomplished. It's like a game for babies.
Not babies!
Also, these loading times take forever. It could be a major flaw of the console because I'm playing it on a blue disc for the PS2, but I can't tell you how many times it breaks up my footage. Look at all the clips here I have for the game. It splits up to about 59 labeled for the actual gameplay, as aside from about 4 times where I just took a break and stopped recording. This sort of thing happens every time you exit a level, and it just goes on for so long that you're basically sucked out of the game by the time the screen pops up again.
Boring!
It's disgusting!
As mentioned before, you eventually get the reef blower after collecting 100 jellyfish, but there were barely 3 times where it was necessary to use. One was to blow pinwheels to move umbrellas for you to hop across, and also was to get some coins in a really pointless downtown level where you helped Sandy move trash balls into the sewer. And those last 2 were very minor, and you won't need the reef blower for anything else but those. By the way, look at this kid's face. Just, he's seen some shit. And this game is on a blue disc, which can be hard to read at times, but make sure your disc reader is clean, otherwise the game will come out like this.
You can do it. Press jump, then you can glide a bit far. You press jump again, you can glide a bit louder if you press jump again before you land. If you press jump again before you land.
This game stinks!
So how does SpongeBob's first 3D home console game fare out? Well, it really does have its peculiar moments. With these experimental graphics, lousy controls, and gameplay and limited music, it's average at best. I'm sure little kids who love SpongeBob liked it just fine, and I know I did too, but I got sick of it soon after, especially since Battle for Bikini Bottom came out the following year and blew our minds with how perfectly the show was captured on a video game. And when that happened, we all forgot about Revenge of the Flying Dutchman pretty quickly. But you know what? Even if you played this game prior to your knowledge of Battle for Bikini Bottom, you'll eventually forget about it too.